In this presentation, you'll see the figure in art history and how it's changed. The objectives for this presentation are that you'll be able to recognize the progression of proportions in the human figure through the history of art, compare the various depictions of the human figure through art history, and gain an understanding of how proportions can enhance the symbolic representation of the figure. Artists have been making depictions of the human form for close to 30,000 years. The Venus of Willendorf is from around 24,000 to 22,000 BC. This powerful object is only 4 3/8 inches high. The form and styles of human figures mirror the ideas of the cultures creating them. This shape suggests abundant fertility and plentiful supply of food, two of the most important needs of any society. Egyptians were probably the first group to develop a canon of proportions for their image of the ideal human form. The ratios between the figure's height and all of its component parts set the height of the human body from hairline to heel at 18 times the width of the fist. Different parts of the body are shown in profile and from a frontal view in the same pictures. The goal was to represent each part from its most characteristic angle. Egyptian art was unchanged from early to late periods because they followed these rigid proportions. Greek artists introduced contrapposto, a way of representing the human body so that its weight appeared to be borne on one leg in a natural rather than stiff pose. These sculptures show this progression from the early archaic to the classical periods in Greek art. Greek artists eventually created a classical standard defined by a canon of proportion which may have used the height of the head as a measure for judging the human form. A male was thought to be about 8 heads tall. During the time from 800 to 700 BC, the Greeks had much influence on the continent and would help mold the artwork that would come from the Roman Empire. Roman art became more realistic with time, and accurate depictions of real people are shown in the portrait busts of the married Roman couple. Roman art was also used as a propaganda device to strengthen the power of such leaders as Emperor Augustus. In Renaissance Italy, the figure progressed to be more expansive in subject matter. There was the realistic depictions of figures and the development of linear perspective and foreshortening. Figures began to take on new qualities of spatial dimension in two-dimensional works. A group of artists in Italy developed a style around 1520 called Mannerism. It was a way of distorting the figure to enhance the emotional impact of a painting. Take note of the elongation of the neck and fingers of the Madonna and Child. They look like they do not have any bones in them. These two examples are close to 9.5 heads tall compared to the classical Greek 8. At the end of the 1800s, we see the rise of Impressionism, and the figure is most often depicted in acts of everyday life. The figures are painted as part of the environment in which they were depicted. 20th century modernism opened up experimentation in figural art. Expressions over realism and deconstruction of the human form became the norm. Here are two examples of modern ceramic sculptures. Note the lack of realism and exploration of color.